And Jeremy, this horse is, well, like so many, you couldn't be more pleased with what he's done. He may be 8, but he's flown the flag brilliantly for you.
Yeah, he has. He's only just maturing now, I think. So, no, he's been a terrific horse for the yard, and obviously loves a bit of the warm weather.
So talk us through the preparations, well, it's been a terrific couple of months for the horse as well. It seems going along nicely.
Yeah, it has. He was arguably a little bit unlucky first time out up the straight. Came out of the race well, and then won well, beating Artugo. I think is probably a horse who's improving, who he's got to meet again this weekend. We then backed him up on the all-weather. I'd have to say it wasn't. Before I came, we initially wanted to run him first time out on the all-weather, on the Tapeta, to give that a try. He just missed a wee bit of work before he left, and we didn't really want to step him up to 6 straight away. So we left him and waited for the turf. So it wasn't out of our minds to want to try the Tapeta. It was something we wanted to do. We didn't think it would fit in until after he won the race on turf, and the handicap mark was obviously attractive to back up a week later, and I don't think there was much to lose. We weren't ever planning to run on Super Saturday, so it fitted in pretty well.
So the gap name and everything, obviously, when you came out at the beginning of the year, you were thinking, right, I want to make sure I can get to World Cup night, or was it a sort of bit of an afterthought? Where was it at the beginning of the year?
Yeah, I think definitely the plan was always to aim for World Cup night. But that said, it made sense to be out there early and capitalise. He was back down to a workable mark. He probably had a mixed year back in the UK afterwards. I think what we've found out, he does love these flat sort of tracks. Ascot, although it's not as flat as this, it's a similar surface, and we probably ran him on a couple of tracks which he didn't love. He went and won a listed race after Ascot, after Meydan last year. Ascot was a little bit disappointing. I made an error probably running him in, although he won a listed race at Haydock leading into Royal Ascot. Probably in hindsight he swallowed a clot of dirt there that day, and he wasn't actually that well for 10 days. So this time our plan afterwards, we'll have to wait and see, but he certainly loves being kept a little bit fresh.
So coming into this race, I mean, where do you think he's 8, but you feel you've got him in the form of your life?
Yeah, I think he is. I've always had a lot of faith in this horse, and I'm probably looking through rose-tinted glasses at times with him, but when things go right for him, he's a very good horse. His King's Stand run where he ran 4th, he got well back out of his ground. Probably could have run a bit closer. I think there is a big race, a decent race in this horse. Even though he is 8, he's probably leaving it late to get that race. But
and on the face of it, presuming Soul Power is a sort of benchmark for all sprinters. Yep. Where do you see yourself in relation to him? And obviously Shay again is the one to get at as well.
We've met both of them a number of times now, and Soul Power clearly has our measure on the face of it. No Johnny Murtagh now. So we would hope that, no disrespect to who's going to be riding him in the future, but he certainly had some affinity with that horse. Shay clearly, he is the benchmark on his day. They were very close, the two of them, at Royal Ascot. Shay, hard to argue his form here, although people say we beat him once, but I'm not sure he was flying that day.
So for you though, what would it mean? You've got a relatively small string, 30-odd horses back in the UK, to have a winner on World Cup night?
It's what we get up in the morning and train for. It's exactly what we're after. Even to win at the Carnival was a big enough deal for us. So to win World Cup night would be something exceptional. And
sort of being based in Britain, how easy is it to sort of break through and into the sort of the train, get into the elevated status that clearly you want to achieve?
Yeah, I think it's more of a challenge than it is in Australia. It's a lot. Australia probably, when I came to England, we didn't have any owners of note, any big names. We trained for a good bunch of people there now, but what we try and strive to do. He was probably, Medicean Man was possibly the most expensive horse we bought. As a yearling, I think he was 60 or 70. Don't quote me exactly what it was. He was under 100 grand. We haven't really been able to buy anything of that ilk.
So that's it's such a competitive to get those good horses, isn't it? So when you get one, you do treasure them, don't you?
Yeah, you do. You have to, and you need. I need probably a couple to come through behind him now. But again, it's if were able to win a race World Cup night, I'm sure that's in itself creates those opportunities. Even we've had some interesting phone calls since we've won at the carnival here. You know, that's also helped.
And because you know, one stable star, do you feel more pressure that, you know, you want to get it right?
Yeah, you do. I'm someone that probably drives my lads mad. To a certain extent, probably driven a few people in the international stables mad here too. It is more important to us. Well, not more important, but I guess when you've got one horse here, you want to make sure that everything's right and everything's done the way that you need it to be. So I wouldn't say pressure so much. It's more just you don't get many of these chances. You know, simple as that. You got to make the most of it. So.
Any questions for?
Jeremy, you said you cost under 100 grand. Is he still the most expensive horse you've done before?
As far as off the top of my head, I think he definitely is. There would have been some tried horses that would have been paid a bit more for it, but as a young horse, certainly we haven't, be able to go to the sales and buy, the breeze ups are something we will probably be more active this year than the yearling sales. Just seems the way the majority of our guys seem to want to be heading.
And you say you've had some interesting phone calls.
No, just people who, we've been lucky enough to come out for a couple of years now and won both years. So I think the fact that we can get a horse to travel and perform, and this isn't totally foreign for me over here. This is pretty similar to how we would, training in Australia. So perhaps it's people. I'd like to be more active here in the future. We tried to source some horses prior to this carnival. Got very close to finding a couple, but at the last minute those negotiations didn't. But certainly we'll get off to an earlier start following this carnival and look to aim horses. I think people who come out and visit and see it, the more and more that come out and experience it, certainly an ambition to come out. It wasn't my owner's ambition to come here originally. If we'd known about it, beforehand, we probably would have been out earlier.
So people are coming to you actively saying, I'd like a horse to work on.
Yeah, for sure. And try and, if you can find one, not easier said than done. And I think that's getting harder and harder now. But there's a few horses here. It depends, there's one hand it's competing at the carnival and it's being competitive in the carnival. I think they're two sometimes different things. I'd want to be competitive, not just competing, if that makes sense.
And do you think this helped that you could come out early and get a race under your belt and win a winner?
Yep.
A lot of horses are coming to the carnival with a World Cup night
Yep.
as the objective, and they're not really ready for that stuff.
Yeah, I think if Shay Shay wasn't here, if Soul Power wasn't here, the Hong Kong horses, Joy and Fun's been a superstar for so long now. Exactly how to line them up. If we came out and we were, at the head of the market, it might be a different approach. You might just come over a little bit later. I'd sure want to run beforehand, but I think if you can come and race for the prize money that's on offer, and he just dropped down slightly to a mark, which gives the handicaps an option for him. You'd like to think you didn't have to do that. You'd like to think you'd come over and run straight into the major races, but it makes sense to get over, and prize money's great. So it's
What do you make of that whole
the Amber Sky. I don't know enough about it. I have watched the replays. I'm not someone who gets, I spend more time worrying about my own horse. I obviously know the ones that I've competed against. It's not always easy to line up the form. The horse, the Hong Kong horse that won the Tapita race. Rich Tapestry. I had a couple of sleepless nights wondering whether that was the race to run in, as opposed to the Alquoz to tackle the Golden Shaheen. But it is slightly hard to line up the form on those two. So the Hong Kong horse obviously are always competitive. Hong Kong racing is so competitive and it's such good racing. So.
And what was the call?
Of which race to really? Yeah, I suppose the race he ran in, he was off a fairly attractive mark in that, and I think that people need to remember he wasn't off of 113, 112 when he won that race. He got in pretty well. It's 6 furlongs as well. I think the Golden Shaheen will be run at a different pace to that race. And the other factor is if you draw off the track in the Golden Shaheen with his style of racing, he's he's got no chance. You know, he needs to get smothered away. So.
Jeremy, it's a long way from Adelaide. What would it mean for a guy from Adelaide to win a big race on the richest day of the world?
Oh, it's we get a lot of support from Adelaide for that when we travel around. Yeah, if you'd said to me, I've been in England for nearly 6 years now, 8 years ago, that I'd be sitting here doing this with a runner in the Alquois, I probably wouldn't. I'd laugh at you. It wasn't. I'd always watched it as a young trainer. Watched Nadal Shiva evolve and Dubai evolve, and you watch it with envy, Hong Kong, and you know to just be part of it. You know, it sounds silly, but I remember last year sitting up with my wife on World Cup week, and sitting off the balcony and thinking, well, 8 years ago we wouldn't have thought we'd be here. So that would probably tell you as much how much it means to be just a part of it. Full stop.
And the wins of Elstrom and Hortensia, is that giving you the confidence that it can be done?
Yeah, for sure. I think if you've got the horse and the right horse, and that is a big factor. Not all horses. We've got horses at home that we probably could have brought over for the carnival that just weren't the right horses for the environment. Yeah, I think racing is becoming more and more international all the time. It's going to be the norm to travel horses around to the big meetings, and that's certainly something I'd want to be a part of. If you've got the chance to do it.
Given you were speaking about the horse's age, given his age, does it present something of like a last hurrah sort of thing?
Not really. No, he has never had an injury cloud. He gets the odd bruise feet. I would say he hasn't got the best feet in the world. We have to manage that, but he's never had a day unsound, so to speak. That's a physical problem. His knees and his joints and everything is still like a 3-year-old, and you only need to watch him go around the training track on the morning I was talking to the young girl who rides him work. I think he dumped Harry this morning, pulling up. So he certainly there's still a spring in his step, and as long as he's willing to do that, but he is getting on. But he has been. We've looked after him. So when you haven't got a lot of horses, you tend to, I need to keep him going as long as he's still willing to do it.
Yeah, Timmy, is it easier when you have just one horse in the race to focus on that, or is it much more difficult?
I'd like to have 5 in the race, to be honest. Yeah, naturally you worry about one horse. It would be easier to have more than one horse here because you've got to work on your own all the time, and you've probably haven't got the variety or the opportunities to gallop with partners. So in a way, I would rather have a couple of horses, but certainly watching one horse is a bit easier.
Just your decision to bypass Super Saturday, did you feel that he'd be able to produce his best run here fresh?
Yeah, I think it was a choice of he's going to be running against the same horses World Cup night as he was Super Saturday, and my attitude with him, he was out here fairly early, so it just gave us that bit of extra time, an extra week. It doesn't sound much, but it's a week where he could have a pretty easy time of it. So that was the main reason. Last year we ran on Super Saturday, and he actually did have I talk about his feet, he had a bit of a bruise last year, which probably hampered him for Super Saturday. So this year I just would want to avoid all of that and just have a crack on World Cup night. And
his fresh form is traditionally very good?
Yeah, it is. It's really good. He had a reputation for being a fresh horse. I don't think that was completely what when I'd run him when he wasn't fresh. I don't think he was on the right. He doesn't handle soft going. I'm praying it doesn't rain.
He'd be very unlucky.
Yeah. So I think that he's not just a fresh horse. He backed up. I think that's why he put some people off backing up on Tapita. But we were pretty confident he'd back up. That wasn't the problem. The track in adapting was the challenge.
Yeah, with the strength of Soul Power, Shay, the Hong Kong horses, are you targeting sort of place claims, or do you set your sights a bit higher?
No, I think realistically, if he could run in the first 3 or 4, we'd be delighted. Shay, I think Soul Power has been such a benchmark for a long time. In fact, the Irish sprinters in general at the moment have really been strong. So I am a realist and would think that they'd need to be just a touch off their game. Soul Power leaves, he races a bit in the same style as we do. He does need a little bit of luck. He needs the pace on, and he needs things to perhaps fall a little bit more his way. Shay seems to be able to overcome a few difficulties. He'll want to get to the outside at some point. So, tactically, it depends on where we draw. There's maybe some things you can look at with that, but I won't be trying too hard to to sort of think too much about that, but we're at our own race. But there are ways you can perhaps look at it.